See, now you're doing the 3 with
Yeah,
the
yeah. I'm inclusive. I'm inclusive of the pinky holders. You know what we're doing here, friends? We're marking our 8s.
And it's
8s.
getting weird.
I literally, I'm not even kidding. On a
Doug's
piece
hat,
of paper in
Doug's
front of
hat.
me, I had to write down our 8s.
Hour 8. So just to recap what we're doing, we are this is the Common Good-A-Thon.
I feel like I need a hat.
It's for our work with Vote Common Good, where we do voter outreach, where we help people who are going through a bit of a political identity crisis, a bit of a political deconstruction, know that they're not alone, but that's not all the work we do. We also support candidates, and we do a lot of work kind of on the candidate side. Because frankly, let's be honest. Can we just be honest about something for a minute?
Please.
I would
first time in
appreciate
our
your
lives.
honesty. Yeah.
Yes. Could we finally just get to some honesty?
Republican candidates for office have done a really good job of reaching out to white evangelicals and white Catholics for the past, 40 years. And frankly, Democratic candidates haven't always been as good at that, of reaching out to white evangelicals and white Catholics. And so we help. And we do that in a variety of ways. We've got some training that we do. And I got to tell you, our training for candidates is, can I say this humbly? It's world class. It's world class. It's absolutely fantastic. And we have trained so many candidates around the country, up and down the ballot, helping them to tell their own faith journey in an authentic way, how to talk about the issues that matter to them in a way that will resonate with religiously motivated voters, how to integrate the values that lie underneath the policies, and so they can connect well with religious voters. We do a lot of messaging coaching where candidates that are running for office say, hey, based on this training that I went through, how do I talk about this? And we have produced messaging documents, particularly about abortion. Long before the Roe decision happened and was overturned, we were helping candidates talk about reproductive rights, and that became even more important. Our abortion messaging document that we provide candidates it's a ridiculous 35 pages long. It's a big issue to talk about, and so
didn't really work, but it's long.
Exactly. Yeah, we help.
We don't measure impact; we measure word count. It's like it's like
Exactly.
a term paper from college.
Exactly. We also help network and help candidates get connected to kind of friendly religious leaders in their districts. We do in-district events where we go, and I describe them as part revival meeting, part political rally, where we've got speakers and pastors and poets and musicians and candidates rallying religiously motivated voters to support candidates for common good. And we've got candidates for common good, which is an invitation that we ask candidates to say, hey, I'm gonna use the common good as my governing criteria. It's part of our work is we ask voters to use the common good as their voting criteria. So with candidates, we say, hey, listen, it's not about always agreeing on every policy position. It's not about policy at all, but it's about the shared value of, we're going to use the common good as an organizing principle. And so, that's the work that we do, building this network. We have connected with so many candidates around the country, up and down the ballot. They are spectacular folks. I mean, they're just amazing. If you've been watching along all day, like Jim has, or Alex has, some of the folks have been with us all day. You've heard from some of these folks. You're going to hear from more of them. And it's just really important for us to say, listen, when it comes to voting, it's not always like hold your nose and vote for the lesser of two evils. There are fantastic candidates. And if you've got one in your area that you'd like to connect us with, we would love to be connected with them. So do that. But this work that we do, and part of the reason why we're doing this Good-A-Thon, is because we really believe that the common good can happen through being involved in electoral politics. We often say it's one thing to change policy, man, it's a whole lot easier to change the policy makers. And
Yeah.
if we elect people who believe in the common good as their governing principle, boy, it just makes the process of getting them on board with, policy positions that much easier. And so it's really tremendously important work that we do.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of pressure on politicians and candidates. There's a lot of people that feel like they want them to do their bidding, and the way that a person in the medical profession takes a Hippocratic oath and says they're going to put the care of their patient first. It's just good to be reminded of that, right? So a pledge to the common good is, hey, yeah, there's a lot of pressures, and everything when it comes to politics is complicated. Very rarely is it like, well, this is easy. If it was easy, we wouldn't be moving legislation and laws and all the things that you have to do to run a society. It gets really complicated. Keeping the common good out there in front, super important.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
like Rob said, we've talked to a lot of candidates. You're going to hear from Katie Porter. She's a representative from California. In another half an hour or so, she'll be on with us. Ted Lieu was already on, other elected officials, people running, and also activists and musicians and do-gooders and actors and people that are all a part of this big civil discourse. Because politicians, Rob and Dan, they tell us all the time, I can't do it alone. And Barack Obama was really good at this. He's like, look, sure, I'm the president, but I need all y'all too. Like, you all got to throw in on this thing. We can't do it with just me. We all need to be in on it. And so we're doing all that we can to help make that possible. And if you can help us exist by making a contribution at votecommon-good.com, it really does help. We have a $50,000 match. Somebody said, if you raise $50,000 before July 15th, I will match that. If you don't, I'll match whatever you've raised. And that currently is, I think, $24,788, something like that. And so we'd love to pop that up. If somebody wants to drop that big check and just finish this thing out, and we'll start going for the next, we'll try to talk to the donor and see if they'll do more. I'm not sure they will, but you push us over the top and let us deal with that problem, right? We will we'll deal with that problem as we go.
For sure. And so one of the things that we realize, and I think this is something many of us have been saying for a while, but it's kind of dawning in light of the Supreme Court decisions across the country, over the last several months. There's this realization that all across the country, state legislatures really, really matter. And what happens in Texas, what happens in Tennessee, what happens in Oklahoma, what happens in Arkansas can impact everybody all over the country. And we often, we think of presidential elections as the sexy ones. We think of Senate races and congressional races as the sexy ones. The really important ones, and those are all important, but the really important ones are state legislative races. Down the ballot are, those are races that are absolutely critical, that have an impact, not just, in your local area, in your state, but can impact the whole country, especially with the way the way the Supreme Court has been going. And so our guest now is a lady running for state Senate here in Arkansas. She's running actually to be my state senator.
Wow.
Lisa Parks. And so Lisa, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for being a part of the Good-A-Thon. Thank you for running for office.
Thank you for having me. You guys have been at it for a long time. I've kind of touched in and out during the day when I wasn't in meetings or at appointments, and it's been really incredible. Just thank you for what you're doing. I remember when I filled out the paperwork, just even filling out the questionnaire gave me a hopeful feeling. It was really wonderful. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, tell us your story. How did you come to run for state Senate in Arkansas? What's your journey like? You're not a career politician. You're just like a regular person like the rest of us. How did this come about?
Pretty much. Well, as you know, Rob, we live here in this district that's been historically red, I think, for quite some time. It was challenged, I believe, maybe 9 or 10 years ago, and that was Diana Gonzalez Worthern who did that. She's a good friend. She was actually a perfect candidate for this position, but I think the percentage rate was about 65-35 at the time. I had thought over the years about running and challenging this seat a couple of times, but it just wasn't the right time. And so when our state senator stepped down, I believe it was the end of October, it became a really time sensitive decision.
Hmm.
It felt like the right time to do it. I was at a place in my life where I felt like I could do that. I don't have small children anymore, which is a big determining factor. It's hard for folks to run for these positions when they have full-time jobs and kids at home. So all that to say, it became more of a perfect time for me to do that. And so we made the decision to run for that special election. The election was in February, and we came within 32 votes of winning that seat. And so, because the lines had all been redrawn, there was a new District 31 that everybody in Arkansas is having to run for their seats. And so it felt like really the right thing to do to continue this journey and continue this fight to November. I will say that it's been kind of nice to see some of the names on the list today, because I recognized Billy Ray and was it Daniel Strong that was on?
Yep.
They
Yeah,
were
Dan.
so wonderful. Back in, Rob, I think it was you that actually kind of hooked us up and introduced us via emails and social media, but they did an amazing job of just elevating our message and sharing it, and actually brought in some pretty good donations and people that reached out to support the campaign. So it was good to see those familiar names on the agenda for the day. That was a long answer to your question.
Yeah. No,
We are fans of long answers. They go with our long setups to our questions.
Yeah.
So you take as long as you want. We're big fans of that.
I mean, just to reiterate,
Yeah.
32 votes. I mean, in a red district, Lisa, you got
Right.
49.8% of the vote in that special election. And I was so glad you
Right.
ran, because if somebody else didn't run, I felt like I was going to have to. And so I was really glad that you did it instead, because somebody had to contest this race. And I'm so glad that you now that the special election is over, I wish you had won, but now, you're back at it and a part of the regular election that's taking place now. You're the Democratic nominee for this seat. Talk about why state Senate seats are so important. Why is it so critical that we have good representatives at the state level?
Well, so one thing that I think is really important, and Greg Letting, he's one of our state senators now, and he did kind of put this information out there the other day, which I found was very interesting. Although, even if all the folks running for Arkansas State Senate on the Democrat side of the ticket were to win right now, I don't think it would give us a majority, obviously. But what it does do is works on that super majority that the Republicans have in the legislature. So his point was we only need to change 3 of those seats in the Arkansas State Senate. That would mess up that super majority that's happening right now. So it's critical. I mean, you see the things that are going on in Arkansas right now. And so the more progress we can make a little at a time, I think we just have to keep moving forward and taking the little steps that we can take and making a difference in the places that we can make them. And I mean, we have more than 3 good candidates on the ballot in November. And so I don't think it's impossible to win 3 seats and kind of impact that super majority in this Arkansas State Senate.
So Lisa, I just want to clarify this, because it caused me to smirk when you said it. If all the Democrats currently running for the state Senate, if all the current Democrats were to win, you still wouldn't have the majority? Is that because there's just not a Democrat running for every seat? Is that what?
There's some that we don't. There's quite a few that we don't have someone running for, and quite a few that we do. But I'd have to look at the numbers again, but I don't think we could win the majority at this point.
I mean, that just shows a real situation, which isn't only true in Arkansas, it's true all around the country. And it's true the other side. There's Democrats that run unopposed. And it just feels like something that should be different. So we're planning on you winning, hoping, doing everything we can for you too. But even if not, just for the love, like we can't smirk at, when I was a kid, you used to laugh about a Russian election, or a Soviet election when it was, one candidate. That just happens too often in our country. We can't even have a political discussion or dialogue or movement of people to feel like someone wants to represent them if there's no one offering themselves up. Was that part of the motivation for you, in addition to taking the seat? It was just that it mattered?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was not going to leave this seat unchallenged. I love hearing that Rob might have been interested in it. Maybe I should have talked to him first.
Well, a little late to hear that, Rob. Save poor
Um,
Lisa a lot of work.
No,
Exactly,
Vanessa and I had long
exactly.
discussions into the night. Like, okay,
Yeah.
does one of us have to do this?
Well, because it was a really quick, I mean, it happened
Mhm.
really fast. And then the governor set, the special election, and there was a deadline. I mean, it had to be just a few days making the decision, but that absolutely factored in. The fact that it was an open seat and hadn't been challenged in quite some time. And we had seen the progress with, Megan Godfrey was a state representative who ran in downtown Springdale, won her election by, I think, 18 votes or so, somewhere between 18 and 20 votes, flipped that seat. We saw the hope and the progress in Springdale and Northwest Arkansas, and we're still hopeful. We believe we can win this seat, and I believe the special election showed us that.
Yeah, for
Hey,
sure.
Linda, in
Lisa,
any of those races, like yours that you didn't win by 32 votes, I think you said, or this one that Godfrey won by 18 votes. In any of those cases, did the person who didn't win, you or the other person, did you say the election was fake and rigged and then attack the state capitol at any point with insurrectionists to overthrow it? I just want to sort of contrast the difference of what some people do when they lose a very close election and what they didn't. And that's got to be heartbreaking to lose when you get that close. But you never called into question the validity of the voting process, did you?
We did not. We passed on all of that, on all of the, storming the Capitol, and all of that. I called my opponent the night of, it was pretty late at night, and I called him and congratulated him, and we had a very nice discussion on the phone. So, no, it was time to move forward.
That's how you do it. That's how you
like
do
a mature adult does, as opposed
Yeah.
to some others. So Lisa,
Right.
what's your background? Like, tell us about like what you before you got into all of this and the work that you do. We're asking folks to tell us about the good that they're doing in the world. Tell us about the good that you've been doing in the world for all these years before you got into running for office.
Yeah, well, thanks for that question. But I am from Arkansas. I was born down in southeast Arkansas in the Delta and have just been raised here my whole life. We moved up to northwest Arkansas. It's been about 25, 27 years ago. I went to law school up here. I was a single mother when I went to law school. I had 3 kids, met my husband after we were both attorneys. I started out my career as a public defender. I was first a juvenile public defender, and then spent 17 years being a deputy public defender. It became, I want to say part of my personality. I just really developed a love and a passion for criminal justice reform and just representing people, seeing people who needed just a voice for them, just to stand beside them and advocate for them and be their voice when they didn't feel like they had one. So those 17 years as a public defender probably just had a lot to do with who I am as, a person, an adult today. I then did child welfare for almost 5 years as an attorney, and have only recently gone into private practice. And so that's career-wise, that's where I've been. I've been involved in politics just as a, knock on doors, put flyers out for people, make phone calls. I actually campaigned for Bill Clinton when I was in high school and he was running for governor in the state of Arkansas.
Wow.
Did a lot of parades and handshaking with him. And I always said he had this just knack for being able to call people by their first name when he would walk in the room, even some high school kid. And I always thought he probably had someone standing back here saying, oh, her name's Lisa, but just have always been involved that way, and just had a real passion about, things being progressive, being kind to people in Arkansas, having compassion for people. We've just got to get that balance back. I feel like we're, losing a little of that. I did get to hear Chris Jones this morning. I, listened in on his interview. How amazing is he? How amazing! Oh my gosh, this guy! And I even say, like, if I don't win, at least I got to meet Chris Jones and Kelly Kraut during all of this, because they're just both incredible candidates, incredible people. I call both of them friends now. They're wonderful. Kelly and I canvassed together this past weekend, and got to talk to people at their doors. It just felt so good to talk to people, talk about voting. I went to one guy's door, and he said he was very hesitant about opening it first. He's kind of peeking out. And I told him I was running as a Democrat, and the door got wider and wider open. And before I left, he was pointing out his neighbors. They're a Democrat. They're a Democrat. They're a Democrat. So we went to all those doors and knocked them. So
well, and Lisa, this is the thing. Thanks for sharing that story, because this is the thing that you realize. You could be in a district that's 70% the other party, but 30%, that's a lot. You go down a street and you're like, I don't know, 7 houses and then 3 houses. It's not in politics. That's an enormous difference, right? 40 points is like, you're never going to win. That doesn't mean there aren't people, and it doesn't mean that people don't change their minds, and it doesn't. So often politics becomes 50% plus 1, and then you feel like, well, it's not worth it. Well, it sure is to that guy who feels like, I don't know, nobody ever comes to my door and asks me what I think and wants my voice to be included. And that's just super contagious for people, and
absolutely.
I think it's really, really great. Well, we're proud to be in this work with you. Because Rob lives there in Arkansas. We're going to be in Arkansas, and because we're big Chris Jones and Kelly Kraut fans, and sort of my Kelly for Arkansas shirt today, because it's an awesome shirt, and proud of her. We're going to be down there, noodling around and trying to do some good, and we'd love to do that with you, with you as well.
Love it.
Yeah,
I would love
Lisa,
that.
how can people find you? How can they follow you? How can they donate? How can they get involved? How can they help?
Thank you so much for asking that, because you guys know, and I've heard you talk about it some during the day, just what it takes to keep these campaigns going. You know that what we have to do is reach voters. I mean, that's the big thing. And unfortunately, that costs money. We have a website. It's lisaforarkansas.com. We have the buttons on there where you can sign up to volunteer. You can sign up to donate. You can get involved with any events we might have going on. And just like Billy Ray and Daniel and all you guys did in the fall, share. If we can, just multiply our message, get it out there, reach voters. That's what we need. That's what we have to do between now and November, is just make them all aware and get them to the polls.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Really
Lisa, thank
you
so much for
all the
spending
candidates we've heard
who
now have this thing where it's their first name for their state, Chris for Arkansas, Lisa for Arkansas. How are these URLs even available? It's just shocking to me.
I know.
There hasn't been another Lisa in Arkansas that thought it's just, maybe it's just that now we're in kind of the folksy world, I kind of noticed that now we do our candidates not by their last name, but by their first names. I know something's happened, so maybe they're available, but it's really a great trend. We've heard it just all day long,
I have a friend who purchased rob2022.com that didn't get used, but I don't know if he owns rob2024.com. We'll have to.
How about Rob for America? You got Rob for America. Do you have Lisa for America? I'm going to just go and start buying up websites now. That's what I'm learning out of this.
Lisa, thank you so much for chatting with us. Thank you for running. Thank you for all that you're doing. And folks need to head to lisaforarkansas.com and follow on social and donate and all of that stuff. These state Senate races are so important. Gun bills, abortion bills, all of these things, voting rights bills, all of these things that concern you, they're coming from state Senate, state House races. They're so tremendously important. And
100%.
and we in flipping some of these seats, will make a huge difference in people's lives. And so, Lisa, thank you for offering yourself and being a common good candidate. And we were 100% behind you.
Thank you so much. Just thank you for having us here today and making Arkansas important. We feel that it's very important. We want, to have people know that they matter, and things, events like this, recognizing Arkansas candidates, knowing how important it is. Just thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, if Dan, can you put up Jim's comment, Jim Eaton's comment, because the Chamber of Commerce of Arkansas should pay attention to the fact that Jim is saying, I'm starting to like Arkansas after all that he's seen today. Jim's been raised for most of the day, and he's saying that he's starting to like Arkansas. So doing what we can to, and frankly, Rob and I, we rejoice after every candidate like you comes on, and we just simply say, these people are unbelievable. People running for office, like just really, really
So great.
Like we've spent our lives in the church world, and there's great people,
state.
but this is just really, really something.
Arkansas is incredible. It's a wonderful state. It really is.
Yep. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya. Oh man, just fantastic. Just fantastic.
Just keeps coming. The hits just keep coming around here.
Yeah, and granted, if we had a political director for Vote Common Good that say lived in Illinois, we might have a lot of Illinois candidates, or But I just, because of my proximity to these folks, I've gotten to know them, and I'm just like, wow, these are great people.
Yeah. Look, there's, again, I know I was just hours ago sitting in this very same spot. You might not recognize me because I changed hats. It's like Superman episode, where the guy just changes his hairstyle and all of a sudden he's unrecognizable. But there's just a spirit that gets moving in a place. And I don't think I think there's something collective that's going on. I think that, when we look at Arkansas, that Chris's candidacy and Kelly's work and now Lisa, like these people start to create other good people that kind of get in, and it's not for no reason at all.
We saw it happen in Georgia with Stacey Abrams' race for governor a couple of years ago, where it began this whole movement that literally shifted the direction of the country with those Senate races back in January of 2021. It's these things these races are critical.
Yeah, it makes makes an enormous difference. And if you wonder how politics get put together and all of this, it's because somebody just comes in and raises their hand and says, "Yep, count me in." I'll do it. I'll offer myself up for whatever. So however you're offering yourself up, friends and fans watching all this, we certainly appreciate it. In a few moments, you're going to hear from Katie Porter. Katie is a congressperson from Southern California, famous for whiteboards and for surfing videos and other things. So you're going to hear from her, but you're also going to have a chance to hear from...
Look on the screen, Doug. We have crossed the
$25,075 mark. Well, there we go. Thank you, everyone. I have a long list of people I'm going to read, but we need to catch a break. Maybe we'll do it after Katie. A long list. And you know who else we get to talk to? One of my favorite people in the world, Dora Rodriguez. Dora, we met along our work along the border. And Dora, thanks for coming on today. I know I was hounding you all day trying to get you on, but I just love you and so much wanted you to be part of the Common Good-A-Thon. We are asking people to share what goodness they're up to. For some people, they're running for Congress. For some people, they're doing the work that you're doing of caring for those who are the most vulnerable on our southern border. And we're just really excited. So, good evening, Dora.
Oh, good. Hello. Thank you so much, Doug, for having me. And oh my God, Rob, thank you. I still remember the moment that you went and got your wife a big surprise.
The same guy, that guy. Okay, Dora, you live in, I'm just going to give the recap for people who haven't had a chance to meet you yet. You live in Tucson. You do work on the border in a little town called Sasabe, which is both the name of the town in Arizona and in Mexico. And just the other night, you were having a vigil for people who are suffering and also trying to celebrate the fact that the Biden administration has been given the authority to change the Remain in Mexico requirements for people seeking asylum. So a lot going on our southern border. There's no issue that is more poignant to the elections that are coming up and to public policy than the issues of immigration. And you're somebody who's right in the midst of it. So I know we only have a couple minutes, but just tell us, remind people what you're doing and introduce yourself to the people about the good work that you're up to.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity and good luck. I just heard the big number of what you guys are raising in this. Praise God. It's amazing. It's for good cause. Um, yes, well, we continue to serve our asylum seekers in the southern border of the area of Tucson, Arizona. And around Tucson, Arizona, and we have about 4 borders within 2 hours, 3 hours distance from each other. We continue to bring a light of hope to people still waiting in Mexico, because yes, they remain in Mexico, supposed to go away, but
Mhm.
of course we all know it takes time for them to get their head together. And in the meantime, I said, well, our people needs to eat. Our people needs basic human things, that we provide, from a toothpaste to a toothbrush and food. So that while our warehouse is trying to figure out and knocking their head, what are we going to do?
Mhm.
And their children need help. So that's why we're present. That's what we're doing. Also, we, of course, are grieving the loss of the 53 migrants and asylum seekers. I'm sure they were brutally killed in that
Yeah.
trailer. And it was really an unnecessary death. We all believe that if we have a little bit of humanity in our policies in the United States, we would not see this criminal activity that takes so many lives, unnecessary.
Mhm.
Just this morning, it was again in Chiapas, down in southern Mexico border. A group of 30 migrants that were loaded up in a big truck and they roll over. So far, we don't have anybody dead, but it's a lot of people that is hurt really bad. So, those are circumstances and things that are repeated over and over through years. This is not new. And we know our policies, instead of getting better, it had really hard and really, really bad, that affected all of us. Today is a big day also for conversations for DACA. So we
Mhm.
need to, for hundreds of thousands of students and young kids that, my heart breaks just to think that it's not going to go in their favor, because I seen returnees, I've seen the people who has been deported in their home countries. They have no clue where they are, even
Yeah.
if they were
Yeah.
born there, but they were brought to this country where they were 2 3 years old. So I am praying. I keep, asking people, please, please pray extra today, because we must pass something that is forever situation, a good situation for our DACA children. So we are busy in this border. Nothing has really changed. Title 42 is still in full force. So we are, hoping that the remain in Mexico does not, really apply to that too,
Mm.
because the easy can say, okay, you have a case, but we continue to have Title 42. So you need to go back and wait.
And for people who don't know, Title 42 is it's a health code reference that the federal government can change its normal ways of operating because of a health crisis. And so it's been used by the Trump administration and now continued use by the Biden administration to limit the access into the United States from people from other countries, which means it's restricting immigration and causing huge human crisis for those people trying to get in, and really damaging our country. We don't have enough workers. We don't have enough flow. We don't have enough of the income comes in from immigrants. We have a society based on it, and that really does need to change. Yeah, absolutely. So Title 42 is shorthand for those of us who know, but to other people, they might not know the implications of keeping people out due to COVID restrictions, which just feels like that's something that needs to change now.
Right. It's been way too long. It was implemented right in March when the pandemic was, public, and immediately there was posed by the last president, Donald Trump. It came really good for him because we
Yep.
know that it's like, oh man, this was implemented in 1940, and it was to health provision, health code provision to contain, epidemics. But it was perfect. What we see nowadays is the difference is which group that Title 42 is
Yeah.
applied. So we saw when a large number of refugees came from Ukraine, and we are thankful for them to be safe in our
Yep.
country. But in Tijuana, there were 20,000 people who was processed in less than 2 weeks. So when we are saying the Title 42 is still in full force because we are not ready to process this number of people, it's a horrible excuse because we know that we are ready.
Amen.
Small communities and big communities, we know the Christian community, uh, activist community, everybody is ready to receive migrants, to receive asylum seekers
Yep.
and their children. But because of color, it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference who are bringing to this country.
It does. And
Yeah.
Dora, you make a big difference with the work you're doing. So proud of you and so proud of the work. And sorry we only have this little bit of time together, but thanks for coming on and sharing with us. It's easy to get just in the political side of all this, and to see you and to see the good work that you do is just such a
Yes.
joy to all of us. And so thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Let's not give up. Bring the good
Nope,
hope.
we're gonna keep working. All right, we'll see you soon. Back down in Arizona in Sasabe Bay. All right, we're going to be back in just a moment here. Every hour we're restarting, so we're going into hour 9, and hour 9 features Representative Katie Porter. Can't wait for you to hear from her and some others as we keep going. We're going to go another 4 hours. We're going all the way until midnight Eastern time, and so starting hour 9 here in just a minute. And so if you're watching on this stream on Facebook, you'll see a new post will go up. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, a new video will start. If you're not watching our YouTube channel, head on over there. And if you haven't yet made a contribution, please do. And to the many of you, we'll start naming you by names here in a few minutes for your contributions. It's unbelievably gracious and overwhelming. And thank you for it. We're just over $25,000 of our $50,000 match, which we have another week to fulfill. So we're going to push really hard to do so. So thank you for sticking with us. And we'll be back here in just a minute or so with Representative Katie Porter.